after I lost my memory. I mistakenly thought I was the kept woman of Edward Cole, one of the city's top dogs. I hated his foul temper, and in bed, he was like a pissed-off jackhammer with zero tenderness. So, I started looking for a new sponsor. One day I was at Mr. Gordon's house playing the tragic damsel, and the next I was at Mr. Ford's scrubbing floors as the plucky, resilient heroine. When Edward Cole got home from work, he stared at the empty mansion, a storm cloud on his face. He kicked his son, who was busy playing with an Ultraman toy. "Go get your mother. It's time for dinner." Edward Cole's son is actually pretty fun. The second I pinch his chubby little cheeks, he starts wailing, "Mommy." That's when I put on my stern face. Look, I'm a total smoke show in the prime of my youth. Calling me mommy ages me by at least 30 years. Stop trying to kiss up to me and go buy me a bag of flamin' hot Cheetos from the corner store. The perfect little doll was so startled he stopped crying, but he couldn't hold back his sniffles. His eyelashes were damp, his eyes blinked, and he whispered pitifully, "Mommy." Honestly, I was more pitiful than he was. I woke up after a car accident with amnesia. Not only did I discover I was the kept woman of a titan like Edward Cole, I also had to be a stepmom to his son. It was infuriating. This gorgeous face, this killer body, I looked like I just turned 18. And here I was, stuck wasting my youth and squandering his money. Ever since I woke up and greeted Edward Cole with a, "Damn, who the hell are you, old man?" That fossil hadn't said another word to me. He just walked around with a permanent scowl. I thought he had no sex drive. Turns out, in bed he was a relentless machine. For 3 days and 3 nights, I couldn't even get out of bed. So, yeah. I was definitely his kept woman. No feelings, just carnal pleasure. That damn old man. He already had a son and was still keeping a mistress. I hope his kid doesn't grow up to be just like him. The more I thought about it, the angrier I got. I gave his sons but another little kick. "Hey, you. Get in the kitchen and whip me up a couple of dishes." The little guy scampered toward the kitchen on his short legs. "You're actually going?" I was shocked. He wasn't even as tall as the trash can under the sink. I followed him and found him stretching his tiny arms, trying desperately to reach the spatula on the counter. Since he couldn't reach it, he started spinning in anxious circles, like a puppy chasing its own tail. It was so cute I burst out laughing. The little guy heard me and looked over, his big eyes wet with tears. "Mommy." My face instantly fell. "Call me sis." The little guy tilted his head, thought it over for a second, and then happily chirped, "Sis." "Attaboy." I ruffled his hair. I couldn't help but feel a little smug. I guess this counted as getting one over on Edward Cole, right? The sound of the front door opening came from downstairs. Edward Cole was back. The little guy immediately grabbed my hand and scurried downstairs. Then he let go and threw himself into Edward's arms. "Daddy." The exhaustion on the man's face vanished, and his cold features softened. "How was your day, buddy?" "Ahahaha." The father-son duo stopped and turned to look at me in unison. I was clutching my stomach, unable to stop laughing. "Hahaha, who on earth named your son that?" "Fun fact, my dog back home is named Buddy, hahaha." Edward Cole's expression darkened. His sharp gaze shot toward me. I immediately shut up. Calm. Rational. This was my sugar daddy and the little sugar prince. Suppressing my laughter, I said seriously, "Buddy is a great name. A simple name brings good luck, and it's so auspicious. It brings in the cash. The silence was deafening. So awkward. Nobody appreciated my brand of humor. "Damn it. Let's eat," Edward said, patting Buddy's back. He raised his arms to take off his coat, paused for a moment, glanced at me, and slowly opened his arms wide. I instantly got the hint and scurried over like a suck-up to take his coat and hang it on the rack. Edward's outstretched arms froze mid-air. His brow, instead of unfurrowing, just tightened. He looked up and stared right at me. His gaze held a hint of anticipation. What? What are you waiting for? Are you expecting me to throw myself into your arms, coo, kiss you, and say, "You worked so hard, baby"? Tough luck. I'm way too cool for that. I would never lower myself to do something like that. Besides, I'm a kept woman. I know my place and I stay in my lane. That's a wife's job. So I just tilted my chin up, snorted humph, and walked away. The food at a sugar daddy's house is the best. The table was filled with all my favorite dishes. And I don't eat spicy food. There wasn't a single spicy dish on the table. Guess the big boss doesn't like spicy food either. He's probably afraid of getting hemorrhoids. That would be so embarrassing. I gnawed on a chicken leg with my left hand and chomped on a lamb chop with my right. Sis, have this. Buddy, struggling with his chopsticks, shakily placed a piece of pork tenderloin in my bowl. Hard pass, I said, pushing his chopsticks away. I don't eat cheap meat. Edward Cole, who had been silent, suddenly spoke up. That's imported from Spain. I immediately plastered on a smile and bit the pork right off Buddy's chopsticks. Thank you, Cash. It's delicious. Buddy blinked. Sis, I'm Buddy. Right, Cash. I ruffled his head. This name is more auspicious. Be a good boy, we're switching. Buddy nodded, not quite understanding. Thanks, sis. Clack. A pair of chopsticks was slammed down on the table. Edward Cole's dark gaze fell on me. What did you tell our son to call you? His stare was so intense I couldn't help but swallow. Sis. It makes me sound younger. Good, Edward gritted out. Just great. That night, I was handcuffed to the headboard. As my legs trembled, the cuffs tightened, chafing my skin until it hurt. I wondered if they'd broken the skin. Old man, sicko, he really had some serious kinks. When I felt him start kissing his way down my collarbone again, I pleaded with teary eyes, I'm so tired, I just want to sleep. When the man's eyes met mine, it was like he'd been burned. His breath hitched, his Adam's apple bobbed, and the desire in his eyes deepened. Then, he kissed me even more fiercely. Does he have some kind of special fetish? I was literally begging for mercy. It's not easy being a sugar baby. It's even harder being Edward Cole's sugar baby. Tonight, he was especially rough. I pretty much passed out. When I woke up in the morning, I couldn't move a single finger. The space next to me was empty. He was already gone. I lay in bed and started questioning my life choices. How did I end up picking this sponsor? Sure, he was a little bit better looking than other guys. And his body was only a little bit better than a male model's. And my bank account only had $28.34 in it. I shot upright. He's not getting this for free, is he? I lay back down. Probably not. He's got a huge business, and a son. I shot up again. Having a son is all the more reason not to be a deadbeat. Finally, I collapsed back onto the bed, clutching my aching back and gasping for air. The door was knocked on softly. Sis. It was a tentative little voice. Paired with a set of grape-like eyes peeking through the crack in the door, it was enough to melt anyone's heart. But I was not in the mood. What? If you want to play, go find the neighbor's kid. Sis. Buddy ran in and threw himself into my arms, hugging me tight. You didn't die last night, did you? I heard you crying for a long time. Last night. Crying. A few R-rated scenes flashed through my mind. My face instantly turned red, and I pushed him away. No, you heard wrong. Buddy, unfazed, hugged me again. Did Daddy hit you? I'll go hit him back. Seeing him act like a little man, defending me, warmed my heart. It wasn't exactly hitting. If he ever laid a hand on me, I'd have taken the money and run a long time ago. Wait. Run? That's right. If I'm a sugar baby, I have the right to switch sponsors, don't I? Since Edward Cole is so moody and stubborn, why not just find someone new? A brilliant idea sparked in my mind. Cash, oh, cash. Buddy blinked his big eyes. What is it, sis? Help me film a video. I gave him a sly grin. In the company boardroom, Edward Cole's phone buzzed. The man gave it a bored glance. His assistant, Chris, immediately understood, took the phone, and stepped out of the boardroom to handle the message. The moment he opened the texts, a video came in from a contact named Amnesiac Wife is so cute, but not when she calls me an old man. This must be the boss's wife, right? Why the new contact name? Last month it was wife looks so beautiful when she cries. Whatever. His boss was a hopeless romantic. He didn't understand their games, and maybe he was just a pawn in them. Chris rolled his eyes, ready to go back in and tell Edward his wife had texted, but his hand slipped and he accidentally opened the video. A high-pitched, childish voice piped up. I'm Buddy, and I approve my sister getting a new sponsor. The next second, a filter changed the kid in the video into the shape of a dog. Sis, I want to be a person, the little voice complained. Someone off camera was cooing and coaxing him. Be good, you can be a person in the next filter. Okay. The child quickly agreed and chirped happily, I'm a big yellow dog, and I approve my sister getting a new sponsor. Next came a filter of some three-haired monster, then a creepy triangle-faced alien, then a green-faced broccoli. The line was always the same, I approve my sister getting a new sponsor. A cold sweat broke out on Chris's back. What was this? That little kid was obviously Edward Cole's son. The boss was always bringing him to the office, showing him off not so subtly, bragging about how much his wife loved him for giving him a child. And the voiceover had to be his wife. He'd heard she got into a car accident last month while chasing a cotton candy cart on her scooter, lost her memory, and forgot all about the boss. She was still recovering at home. This video. The sponsor had to be Edward Cole, right? Getting a new sponsor. Did that mean getting a new husband? And she made this video with their son? Alarm bells went off in Chris's head. If Edward saw this, he'd make the entire company pay, wouldn't he? Last time, he'd accidentally seen his wife's comment on one of those 30 million or your husband videos. She had unhesitatingly typed 30 million. He was so furious he didn't come home for 3 days and 3 nights. He just sat in his office, working like a madman. And his subordinates were all walking on eggshells, terrified of getting caught in the crossfire. When one of them went in to give a report, a single misplaced comma got them a 3-month bonus suspension and a tirade from Edward. If you can do the job, do it. If you can't, get out. Of course, he was just blowing off steam, but Chris was still terrified by his cold, grim stare. The whole company had come to one conclusion. Never, ever mess with a man who's fighting with his wife. It's terrifying. This video absolutely could not be seen by Edward Cole. Chris made up his mind. He would bear the burden and act as a guardian of their love. He would delete the video. Even if Edward found out later, screamed at him, and threw him out on the street. In that moment, standing in the crosswinds, he felt like a hero sacrificing himself for the company. It was tragic and glorious. He sighed softly. This family would definitely fall apart without me. Of course, Edward Cole eventually found the video. Because I, fearing he might miss it, had also sent it to his work email. When he got home that day, Edward locked himself in his room and wouldn't come out. He acted like he'd suffered the greatest injustice in the world. Like the whole world had betrayed him. He refused to eat, refused to talk. Mrs. Chen, the housekeeper, was worried. He has a sensitive stomach. He really should eat something tonight. She looked at me pleadingly. I resentfully took the tray and knocked on his door. I was wrong, it was just a joke, okay? Don't take it so seriously. Damn it, soothing a sugar daddy was more exhausting than soothing his son. And this one didn't even talk. That made it exponentially harder. After 10 minutes of knocking, my patience was down to 10%. 20 minutes later, my patience ran out. Half an hour later, I'd had enough. I kicked the door hard. Are you gonna eat or what? Fine. I'm done with you. Suddenly, silence from inside the room. Then came a frantic scuttling, like someone scrambling and tumbling toward the door. The door opened, revealing Edward Cole's face, which was trying hard to look cold. The corners of his eyes were red, like he'd just been crying. I stared at him, fascinated. No way. Am I really that charismatic? One sentence from me and this city titan is so helplessly in love that he's secretly crying? My staring made Edward uncomfortable. He turned his face away and pursed his lips. What is it? I pointed at his eyes. You were cry. Before I could finish, Edward cut me off coldly. It's just a cold. Don't overthink it. Oh, so it was a cold. That made more sense. How could a mere-kept woman like me have that kind of power? I rolled my eyes at him. Well, make sure you eat. I turned and walked away. I didn't see it. The man behind me froze, seemingly in disbelief that I had just left. The corners of his mouth turned down, and his eyes reddened again. After placating him, I lay in bed. I had already regretted it 800 times. How did I end up with such a childish sponsor? I'm switching. I have to switch. But this time, I'll do it quietly. I looked at myself in the mirror. A sharp, fair chin, a curvy figure. Look at that. This is my capital. If Edward Cole doesn't want it, I've got plenty of other places to go. So I started quietly scouting for a new sponsor. I even joined a sugar baby syndicate group chat. Every day, there were posts like, urgent. Mr. Dunn's old flame went abroad, looking for a stand-in. Must be 5 feet 2 inches, 105 pounds. DM if you meet the criteria. Or urgent. Mr. Chin needs a sugar baby. No requirements, DMs open for rates. It was dazzling. After some careful investigation, I had a few candidates in mind. One was Gavin Gordon, the eldest son of the Gordon family. He was known for his cold demeanor, and while he wasn't quite on Edward Cole's level, he was still one of the top catches in the city. The key intel, from other sugar babies, was a secretly snapped photo of him showering. His body was, in a word, spectacular. The only problem was his reputation for being too clean-cut. He didn't need a kept woman. Pfft. When a man says no, he means yes. Added to the shortlist. Second was Felix Ford, the third son of the Ford family. Rumor was he was a total puppy dog, clingy and sweet. Despite having a pair of seductive eyes, he'd only ever had one girlfriend and was incredibly devoted. I love a human golden retriever type. Added to the shortlist. After adding names until I got bored, I drifted off to a blissful sleep, completely oblivious to the muffled sobs coming from the bedroom next door. After sneaking into the Gordon residence disguised as a maid, I was mopping the floor while craning my neck toward Mr. Gordon's study, and I wasn't paying attention when I stepped on someone. I meant to say, so sorry. But what came out was, not interested. Then what would be interesting? A cold laugh came from in front of me. My body went stiff. My eyes traveled up from a pair of gleaming leather shoes, past the perfectly creased slacks, and I froze, not daring to move my neck. Dressed to the nines even at home. It had to be Mr. Gordon. I was just about to apologize, when I suddenly remembered what my friend in the sugar baby chat said. Cold, emotionless men like him have a soft spot for the damsel in distress type, the girl with a tragic past, forced to work to pay off her parents' debts and put her little brother through school. Cold on the outside, but a total softie on the inside. So I lowered my eyes, bit my lip, and put on a mournful expression. I'm so sorry, Mr. Gordon. I was up all night taking care of my sick mother in the hospital, and I have to go deliver lunch to my little brother at his school soon. I was in a bit of a rush. It won't happen again. My voice dripped with so much melodrama it could have navigated a mountain pass. Just as I thought the man in front of me would soften, toss me a credit card, and say, "Be my girl, you'll never have to suffer like this again." A familiar, teeth-grinding voice echoed in my ear. Mr. Gordon? Why don't you look up and see who I really am? My scalp tingled. The hair on the back of my neck stood up. That voice. That tone. Why did it sound so much like Edward Cole? I dazedly looked up and met the man's dark, stormy face. What are you doing at the Gordons? What am I doing? Getting tired of you and finding a new sponsor, obviously. But I didn't dare say that out loud. Because this man was radiating danger. He loomed over me, his dark eyes staring me down, and the pressure made me shrink back. Actually, I misread the address and went to the wrong mansion. You believe me, right? I explained, carefully watching his expression. What do you think? As we were facing off, the study door to the side opened. A broad-shouldered man emerged, leaning lazily against the doorframe. He jetted his chin at me. Yours? Edward ignored him, just kept staring at me, his expression so terrifying he looked like he wanted to tear me apart. The man chuckled. Well, that's easy enough. With that, he pushed open a narrow door in the corner. You can borrow her for a night. Don't thank me. Both of their gazes shifted toward it. In the dim, damp room. The walls were covered with all sorts of handcuffs, leg irons, whips, and a lot of other kinky implements I couldn't name. They all gleamed with a cold, silver light. I shivered. Damn it. That friend from the sugar baby chat was trying to get me killed. Good thing I hadn't thrown myself at him yet. Otherwise, I'd have the money but not the life to spend it. I immediately started whimpering and threw myself into Edward's arms. No, please, I was wrong. You know I love you the most, I can't live without you. I shot a vicious glare at the other man. Psycho. Even kinkier than Edward. Just you wait, I'm going to expose you in the sugar baby chat. Thank God Edward wasn't as twisted as him. I trembled and snuggled deeper into his arms, but out of the corner of my eye, I saw his gaze darken. His Adam's apple bobbed. He seemed very interested in that little dark room. Just as I was breaking out in a cold sweat, trying to silently extract myself and make a run for it, a hand clamped down on the back of my neck. A numbing sensation spread down my spine. Where are you running? Edward leaned in, his voice low and husky. I wouldn't do that to you. Relax. Buddy. You think I believe that? Your eyes were practically bugging out of your head a second ago. But I had no choice. I could only pretend to believe him and nod. I pursed my lips, my eyes welling up. Edward, I want to go home. The man's movements paused. The hand on my waist suddenly tightened. Okay. On the way home, Edward didn't say a word, just floored the gas pedal. When we got there, I was too scared to get out of the car, my butt glued to the seat. I figured I'd stall for as long as I could. Edward walked over to my side of the car. The handle wouldn't budge. His voice turned as cold as a winter storm. Get out. I shook my head frantically. Nope. Not getting out. You think I'm stupid? Who knows how you're planning to torture me once we're inside? Fine. A smile touched the man's lips, but his eyes were devoid of warmth. Just fine. You can spend the night in the car, then. Don't bother coming back. With that, he turned and left. I let out a sigh of relief. After all that chaos, I was so tired I could barely keep my eyes open. I might as well just sleep in the car for a bit. After a nap, I'd get back to planning my sponsor switch. This sponsor. He's getting switched. Look at his face just now, his tone, it was terrifying. If I stay with him any longer, he'll eat me alive, bones and all. As I was drifting off, the car door opened. A blast of cold air rushed in. I curled up into a ball. A blanket was suddenly draped over me. "Daddy," I heard a small, worried voice say. "Why isn't Sis sleeping at home?" The man was silent for a few seconds. Then he laughed self-deprecatingly. "Because she's forgotten us both. She doesn't love us anymore. All she thinks about is how to leave." When I woke up again, I yawned. That was a good sleep. Time to get back to thinking about switching sponsors. But my stomach rumbled at the inopportune moment. So hungry. What time is it? I checked my phone. 3 p.m. Edward should be at the office right now. It should be fine if I go back inside for a bite to eat, right? I tiptoed through the front door. Sure enough, the place was empty. Even the little rascal was gone. Perfect. I sauntered into the kitchen and saw the counter laden with food. Dish after dish. All still steaming hot. My face lit up instantly. My timing couldn't be better. What was the special occasion? So many dishes. After stuffing myself, I passed by the bathroom. I remembered how grimy I'd gotten today. Why not take a bath? When I pushed the door open, I found the tub was already filled with hot water, the temperature just right. The warm steam billowed into my face. What a waste. Filling the tub and not even using it. As I stripped down and sat in the water, I felt something hard under me. I reached down. It was a black card. Did Edward drop this when he was taking a bath? Well, he has so many cards, he won't miss this one. I pocketed it gleefully. After my bath, I felt a wave of dizziness as I stood up. Maybe I caught a fever from sleeping in the car. Whatever. I got dressed and dolled myself up, ready for round 2 at Mr. Ford's house. It was my fault for not doing my research this morning. Gavin Gordon was one of Edward's business partners. They were definitely in touch. It was probably that jerk who told Edward where I was. My plan to switch sponsors was foiled before it even got off the ground. This Felix Ford guy probably doesn't know Edward, right? Full of confidence, I changed into an evening gown. I was going to crash the Ford family dinner. But I didn't even make it through the front gate before I fainted on their doorstep. For crying out loud. How humiliating. In my hazy state, I heard someone on the phone. "Hello? Mr. Cole? Yeah, it's your wife. She fainted on my doorstep. You still want her? If not, I'm taking her." "Hey, why are you yelling at me?" "I was just trying to be nice and let you know." The next time I woke up, I heard sobbing next to my ear. "Wah, sis, wah." Without opening my eyes, I covered my ears, annoyed. "What are you crying for? I'm not dead yet." Before the words were even out of my mouth, Buddy had already joyfully launched himself at me. "Sis, you're awake." I wrapped my arms around him to keep him from falling off the bed, while silently thinking to myself, with an IQ like this, is he really Edward Cole's biological son? Maybe he takes after his birth mom. Sigh. So pitiful. Buddy blinked his tear-filled eyes. "Sis, is your head still dizzy?" He reached out his small hand to feel my forehead. Not dizzy anymore. I have to say. Raising him all this time wasn't for nothing. He knows how to show concern. As annoying as I found it, it was also kind of heartwarming. "Daddy." The little guy suddenly turned his head and shouted, "Sis is okay. You can stop crying now." My gaze shifted, and only then did I see the man sitting on the sofa. His usually perfectly coiffed hair was a total mess, and his eyes were bloodshot and exhausted, as if he hadn't slept in days. He looked nothing like the calm, cool, and collected Edward Cole I knew. A strange feeling welled up inside me. When he saw me looking, his gaze shifted away uncomfortably. Who was crying? Don't talk nonsense. Right, how could one of the city's top dogs possibly cry? I went along with him. Edward stood up. He seemed to have been sitting for too long, as his legs were numb. He had to bend over for a moment before he could straighten up. Are you hungry? I'll go get something to eat. Then he limped out of the hospital room in a hurry. Is he avoiding me? Sis. Buddy's soft voice brought me back to reality. Daddy really regrets fighting with you and leaving you in the car. Otherwise, you wouldn't have gotten sick. He even slapped himself a few times. Huh? What? He slapped himself a few times? You must have seen wrong, Buddy, I said, ruffling his hair. This afternoon, he was still glaring at me like he wanted to kill me. Buddy was about to speak, when the door was pushed open again. Edward strode in, silently set up the small table over my bed, and started opening food containers. Then he silently scooped up a spoonful of soup, cupped his hand under it, and brought it to my lips. Whoa. Is he always this nice to his sick sugar babies? He's even feeding me himself. I'm so touched. So touched that I blurted out, why don't we just become sworn uncle and niece? That way, when the money thing ends, we can still be family. Edward's eyes shot up, his gaze filled with a chilling frost. What did you say? I thought he hadn't heard me clearly and continued, the two of us, sworn uncle and niece. But before I could finish, the spoon was slammed back into the soup bowl with a clatter. Drink it yourself. He scowled, stood up, and walked away, his back radiating anger. What's with him now? He just gets angry for no reason. I took the soup bowl. Fine, if you won't feed me, we'll just drink it ourselves. That night, lying in the hospital bed, I complained to Buddy. He has such a bad temper. No wonder he doesn't have a wife and has to find a sugar baby. His ex-wife probably ran off because he drove her crazy. Buddy blinked his innocent eyes. Sis, what's a sugar baby? That. I covered his eyes. Time for sleep, you're tired now. Can't be corrupting the youth. Later that night, I got thirsty and went to get some water. As I reached the water cooler by the door of the hospital room, I suddenly saw a dark figure lying on a bench outside through the small square window. Who's that? It's so cold out, why are they sleeping on a bench? Curious, I pushed the door open. Creak. The sound was piercingly clear in the empty, quiet hallway. The man seemed to be disturbed by the noise and frowned in annoyance. The moment I saw his face, I couldn't believe it. Edward Cole? I thought he'd gone home, furious with me. Why was he lying here? His rather large frame looked cramped on the narrow bench, his long legs forced to curl up uncomfortably. He looked like he was guarding the person in the hospital room. So, he really was all bark and no bite. Okay. I guess this sponsor has his good points. I patted his face. Edward Cole? Hey, Edward Cole? Woken by me, the man scowled, annoyed. But when he opened his eyes and saw me, he immediately sat up and grabbed my shoulders. What's wrong? Are you dizzy again? No, not at all. I hesitated for a moment. Do you want to come inside and sleep? Sleep inside? I don't know if it was my imagination, but the man's eyes lit up. With you? I reminded him quietly, there's a pull-out bed. Oh, a pull-out bed. He looked away awkwardly. Then I'll sleep on the pull-out bed. The next morning when I opened my eyes, a small body was curled up in my arms. A large body was pressed against my back. Two hands were wrapped tightly around my waist, as if trying to merge me into his body. I'm burning up. I kicked the person behind me off the bed. How did you get up here? Are you fighting with your own son for bed space? Edward Cole clutched a pillow, his hair sticking up in every direction, his eyes darting around. Are you hungry? I'll go get you guys some food. While waiting for Edward downstairs at the hospital, I suddenly saw a couple fighting nearby. The man's face was full of impatience. Let's break up. You're too much. I go out for one meal and you call me 10 times. I'm a person, not your pet cat or dog. Can you give me some personal space? You're always clinging to me, don't you have your own life? The girl clutched his sleeve, her face streaked with tears as she shook her head. Please don't leave me, okay? I'll listen to you from now on, I won't bother you. The man scoffed. Too late. He then yanked his sleeve out of her hand and turned and walked away without a shred of emotion. The girl stood there, crying into her hands. I went over to comfort her for a bit, and after she left, I suddenly had a realization. So, being clingy is annoying. If I acted that dramatic and clung to Edward every day, would he also get annoyed, give me a huge sum of money to get rid of me, and then I'd never have to find a sponsor again and could live a great life on that money? I'm a genius. I slapped my thigh. After all, after he found out I went to the Ford's house yesterday, Edward had already grimly taken back that black card. My bank account was back to just 28.34. Time to put the plan into action. When Edward came downstairs, I immediately stuck to him. I hugged his arm and pouted. Can you carry me to the car, please? Edward was holding a bunch of things. He frowned at my request. My hands are full. My face immediately fell. If you wanted to carry me, you'd find a way. I just want to see your attitude. Hee hee. This is so dramatic. Edward should get angry and storm off again. But the man in front of me looked down, thought for a moment. Then he grabbed one of the bags with his teeth, freeing up a hand to scoop me up by the waist. Caught off guard, I was thrown off balance and instinctively wrapped my arms around his neck. My lips accidentally brushed against the side of his face. My heart skipped a beat. What are you doing? The man turned his head with some difficulty, a look of confusion in his eyes. Didn't you ask me to carry you? I saw the doting smiles on the faces of the people passing by, and my face flushed hot. I buried it in the crook of Edward's neck. I brought this on myself. After we got home, Edward picked up his laptop to deal with the work he'd missed yesterday. Not giving up, I sidled up to him, sitting as close as I possibly could. But he didn't even glance at me, his eyes seemingly glued to the screen. So I grabbed his head and forced him to face me. Look at me. Edward sighed. I have to work. Work? Not on my watch. Time for some major drama. I propped my feet on his lap. No. Work stuff stays at work. When you're home, you can only look at me. With that, I gave his leg a firm press. Edward let out a muffled groan, grabbing my foot. His eyes darkened. You should go to the bedroom first. I saw he was getting angry, right? Time to press my advantage. I wrapped my arms around his neck. No. No more work. I'm sleepy, you have to come sleep with me. Edward's Adam's apple bobbed, his voice low and strained. Okay, he then suddenly swept me up and headed for the bedroom. As he walked, one of his hands started loosening his tie. When he reached the bed, he tossed me onto it and then pressed his whole body down on top of me. I was feeling pretty proud of myself. But then I looked at the situation and realized something was wrong. What are you doing? The man tilted his head, seemingly confused by my question. Sleeping. Damn it. I really shot myself in the foot. This wasn't the kind of sleeping I meant. But for the sake of my future freedom, I'd endure it. 2 hours later, I was lying in bed, my mind a complete blank. My arms and legs felt like jelly. I turned my head. and saw Edward getting up and buttoning his shirt. Alarm bells went off in my head. "What are you doing now?" Edward looked down at me. "Working." "Damn it. How does he still have the energy to work? Is he even human?" "No, I'm not letting you get any work done today." So I hooked my leg around his waist and pulled myself toward him. "No, didn't you promise to stay with me? Let's go again." Another 2 hours later. I clutched my aching back and grumbled to myself. Why is it so hard to be a drama queen? I'll have to try another method next time. Or else I'm going to act myself into an early grave. I looked over at Edward, who was looking completely satisfied and sleeping soundly. I couldn't resist reaching over and slapping him. The man woke with a start, holding his face and looking at me in a daze. I immediately hugged him and cooed, "Oh, did you have a nightmare? It's okay, go back to sleep." The next day, when Edward was leaving for work, I hugged his waist and refused to let go, making him a whole hour late. Hee hee. This time, Edward must be a little annoyed with me, right? After all, he's a total workaholic. Work is more important than anything to him. By wasting his time, I was preventing him from making money. I stood by the road with my hands on my hips, feeling smug. But as a car sped by, I caught a glimpse of the man's lips curved into a slight smile. Did I see that wrong? From then on, I had him put on my shoes for me, clung to him constantly demanding hugs, and even slapped him in public while we were out to eat. In short, I was as dramatic as I could possibly be. The strange thing was, Edward didn't complain at all. He would kneel down and patiently put on my socks and shoes. When I wanted a hug, he would quickly drop whatever he was doing, grab my waist, and pull me into his arms. He didn't even get angry after being slapped. With a clear handprint still on his face, he took my hand and asked softly, "Did you hurt your hand?" I got goosebumps. Oh no. Is this guy a masochist? Just as I was trying to figure it out, I overheard a conversation he was having with a friend outside a private room. "Your wife loses her memory and starts running around every day, hitting you, yelling at you, and throwing tantrums. Aren't you mad?" Edward was silent for a few seconds. Before she had our son, she was just like she is now with amnesia, lively, happy, full of little dramas in her head, always roping me into her games. But after the baby was born, she started frowning all the time. She stopped clinging to me for kisses and hugs. Her entire focus shifted to the child. Even with a nanny, she had to do everything herself. She stopped buying skincare products, and she only wore the same few outfits. But before, she loved buying pretty clothes for herself. Shopping was when she was happiest. But now, she only buys things for the baby. These days, since she lost her memory, she gets to live in her own world again, doing whatever she wants. All I have to do is play along, and I can make her happy. Why would I be angry? His friend said, "But she doesn't remember you or your son now. She doesn't love you anymore." This time, Edward was silent for much longer. So long that everyone thought he was just quietly grieving and wouldn't say anything else. Then he spoke. "That doesn't matter. I just want her to be happy and carefree. Whatever she wants to do, whatever role she wants to play, I'll play along. Even if," Edward paused and closed his eyes. "Even if she never gets her memory back." I stood there. For a long, long time. Until someone tapped me on the shoulder from behind. "Hi, why are you crying? Did something happen? Do you need help?" Only then did I realize what was happening. I touched my face. My hand came away wet with tears. Ah. I clutched my chest. There was a dull ache. So I was Edward Cole's wife. No wonder that wedding photo on the wall looked so familiar. I thought Edward had found me as a stand-in because I looked like his ex-wife. Turns out, that photo was just photoshopped a little too much, making me look like a goddess. And Buddy really is my son. Damn it. I really did pick that name for him. But it was just a nickname. Thank goodness. There's still hope. But still. Wasn't Edward sad? His wife didn't remember him. All the love they had shared was gone, and when I called him old man, he just sulked in silence. He just wanted me to be free from the identity of Edward Cole's wife for a while, to be my happy, true self. Even if the person he loved most didn't remember him. When I got home, I hugged him and wouldn't let go. Edward's hand, which had been raised, paused for a moment before landing on my head. What's wrong? Seeing him act so nonchalant, I couldn't hold it in any longer. Edward, aren't you sad? The man didn't speak for a long time. Finally, he just held me tighter. Honey. 3 months after the car accident that took my memory. I finally got it all back. At that moment, I was wearing a beautiful new dress, holding my son Buddy's hand with one hand, and Edward's with the other. The three of us sat by the river as a gentle breeze blew past. The sunshine is so beautiful, I sighed. In that warm sunlight, Edward turned to look at me, a soft smile on his lips. Yeah, it really is.